Start, the quiet lives in a peaceful English village. Two lifelong friends, Edward and Thomas, lived unassuming lives. Edward was a fastidious banker, known for his knack for numbers and a preference for tidy routines. Thomas, on the other hand, was a gifted mechanic, who always found tinkering with engines in his modest workshop. Despite their contrasting skills, the two shared a bond forged in childhood. Their closest friend, William, was the lively heart of their trio, a cheerful artist who could turn even the dullest day into an adventure. One evening, William failed to show up for their weekly pub gathering. Hours later, Edward and Thomas received devastating news: William had been brutally murdered. The police revealed that William had unknowingly sketched a scene that captured an illicit meeting between an underworld mafia leader and his associates. The artwork, innocently left behind, was seen as a threat by the mafia, and William was silenced. Grief gave way to anger, and anger to a determination that neither Edward nor Thomas had ever felt before. They were ordinary men, far removed from violence, but they resolved to seek justice for their friend in their own way. Interval, planning the unthinkable. Lacking experience in crime or combat, Edward and Thomas relied on their unique strengths. Edward, with his analytical mind and connections in finance, began researching the mafia's activities. Using his knowledge of banking, he tracked suspicious accounts tied to the gang. Meanwhile, Thomas transformed his workshop into a clandestine laboratory, crafting clever gadgets to aid their mission. Their first challenge was gaining access to the mafia's operations. Edward posed as a money laundering consultant, offering his financial expertise to clean the gang's illicit profits. His composed demeanor and deep understanding of banking earned him the mafia's trust. Simultaneously, Thomas infiltrated their ranks as a vehicle mechanic, repairing their fleet and secretly planting tracking devices. Over months, they uncovered crucial details about the gang's leader, Dominic Hargrave. Dominic relied on a heavily encrypted system to manage his money and an armored van to transport his cash. Edward and Thomas knew they couldn't confront the mafia directly, so they crafted a meticulous plan to dismantle Dominic's empire from within. The turning point, a gentleman's trap. The duo's opportunity came during a major cash transfer. Edward hacked into Dominic's encrypted communications, feeding misinformation about the route. Meanwhile, Thomas sabotaged the armored van's engine during a routine repair, ensuring it would break down at the worst possible moment. On the day of the heist, Dominic's convoy was stranded in a secluded countryside road. Edward and Thomas, disguised in masks and trench coats, emerged from the shadows. Despite their lack of weapons, they wielded their intellect and courage like an arsenal. Edward confronted Dominic with proof of his crimes, banking records, fraudulent accounts, and transactions that tied him to dozens of illegal activities. Thomas revealed the extent of their sabotage, from the compromised vehicles to the planted evidence that would lead the police directly to Dominic. When Dominic threatened them, Thomas held up a device he had rigged to look like a detonator, warning the mafia boss that any retaliation would result in catastrophic consequences. Though the device was a harmless bluff, the threat was convincing enough to force Dominic to surrender. Edward and Thomas recorded the entire confrontation, ensuring Dominic's confessions and threats were captured on tape. They sent the evidence anonymously to Scotland Yard, along with detailed instructions on where to find Dominic and his associates. Ending, justice, not revenge. Within days, Dominic Hargrave and his gang were arrested, and their criminal empire was dismantled. The duo's identities remained a mystery, leaving the mafia clueless about the ordinary men who had outwitted them. Edward and Thomas returned to their quiet lives, changed but resolute. They used the knowledge gained during their mission to establish a charitable foundation in William's name, supporting artists and underprivileged youth. For two ordinary gentlemen, their revenge was not about violence but about using their wits and values to ensure justice was served. They honored William's memory not just by avenging him, but by making the world a little brighter in his absence.